Hey guys, Greenbird here. I hope everyone is doing awesome. It's that time of year again, and I thought I would do another video just showing some of the wild edibles that are in my area and are most likely in your area as well. I know there's a big concern right now with food shortages and things like that, and you know, maybe it gives you a little bit of a peace of mind to know that you may have food right in your backyard that you never knew you had. This is not the first video that I've made of wild edibles, and you're likely going to see the same ones, at least some of the same ones. There is a new one that I have for you though, and but I've picked up a few extra subscribers, and I don't know how many people go back and watch my old videos, or if they're just here for the flint knapping videos or whatnot. So I thought that let's see what there is and what it looks like, and I'm not going to go too much into identification. I'll do as much of a close-up and maybe a few key characteristics as I can, but it's really important that if you are going to forage for food, not only are you going to want to make sure that you understand the proper identification, I would say many trips before you actually harvest them. You know, compare them to other things, take them home, take pictures, jump on all the Facebook pages or post them at any social, whatever your preferred social media is, and see if you can get some good solid you know, confirmations. When I first started with identifying edibles, I did a lot of book work and a lot of YouTube videos and stuff like that, and what I found was that it kind of helped a little bit. I mean, it definitely helped, but it's not going to give you exactly what the plants look like in your area. You're much better off trying to identify it based upon what you've learned, and then getting some confirmation, and then going back and looking at some other plants that look similar to it, and kind of get your own idea of what the differences are and what the differences aren't. If you go back, and maybe I'll try and pin it up there somewhere, I have a good video on identifying Indian cucumbers. The scientific name escapes me at the moment, but anyway, it'll come to me as soon as I'm done with this video. I'm probably not going to show those because those are a little bit further back in the woods. They are a little bit on the rarer side. They're not extremely rare. They're not endangered or anything like that, but I definitely would make sure that if you do harvest them, that you harvest them sustainably and responsibly. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into some plants that are in this area. And I'm going to actually ask a favor of you guys too. If during this filming of this video, you see any edibles that are in the shot that maybe I didn't identify or maybe I didn't see or anything like that, post them down in the comments and let me know. Give me a timestamp. Let me know where you saw them and what you think they are, and we can go from there. I do have a lot of brambles around here. I don't know if they produce fruit or not because the deer get to them before I can even check. So you'll probably see a lot of those in the background here. But let's take a look at some of the most common ones. So the first one on the list is going to be this lowbush blueberry. If you don't know what blueberry looks like, how to identify blueberry, that's definitely one you're going to want to know. I mean, obviously, once they produce berries, you'll know, you know, what they look like. But I believe the leaves are useful as well. I'd have to double check that. Sometimes they look a little bit more waxy, like this one right here. Oops, let's see here if I get a good view of it. Right there. You see how the leaves stagger like that? They're not straight off, evenly off of the stalk, off the stem, you know, the branches, whatever you want to call it. See how they alternate? So, low bush blueberry. Boy, I have them everywhere. Probably not going to be something that might be right in your backyard. It might be tucked away a little bit outside of your yard, maybe in like a woodline area, something like that. But most of what we're going to see today are going to be plants that you can find pretty much anywhere, even if you're in an urban situation. Here it is again. So, low bush blueberry. I never get any berries from here because the deer get them first. Here's an arrowleaf violet. Okay, these grow in a basal rosette pattern, which just basically means from the base, and rosette means like a circular pattern. Violets are edible as well. And again, nothing in this video is encouraging you to go and try these. Do your research first. One thing I forgot to mention in the intro of the video is just because a plant is edible doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to set well with you, or that you might not have a medical condition that will interact with some of the chemicals that are in plants. Just because plants are edible doesn't always mean they're safe. They're very, very powerful and potent medicinal gifts from nature, and just like pharmaceutical medicines, they can have side effects depending upon you know, you personally, in your medical history. So a good way to identify the leaf is just as it says, or just as I said, arrow leaf violet. You can see it has kind of like a spear shape to it, almost like a, you know, the Boy Scout symbol, fleur de lis or something like that. So generally, see if I can find a better example. Yeah, so they'll be pointy, they'll be triangular shaped, and then right at the base they'll have these barbs. And that's a good indicator, if the flowers aren't on there, that you have arrow leaf violets. These are probably in almost any yard, any park, any roadside. They're not hard to find at all. This right here is another wonderful wild edible. This is lamb's ear. You can see the shape of these leaves. These have some lookalikes if you're not really careful and know what you're looking for. So be careful with these. They usually have kind of a pale underside, and the tops of them are not waxy at all. Let's see if I can. There we go. Good. I don't want to pick this out, but there we go. There's a good shot. That's what these leaves look like, and they alternate as well. Instead of being right out of the stem at the same spot, they alternate. So go ahead and look up lamb's ear, what you can do with those, if it's something of interest to you. Now usually whenever you find lamb's ear, you're going to find there's usually other wild edibles right in the same area, and I can already spot a couple here. Right here it looks like we have some clover. Yep, that looks like clover to me. And right next to it, over here, I have what we think is wood sorrel. And let's see if you can tell the difference. There's the wood sorrel. There's the clover. See how the clover has those white, kind of like upside down chevron markings? This one doesn't really exhibit it quite as profoundly as some of the other ones do, but and there's the wood sorrel. Now with the wood sorrel and the lamb's ear, you want to be careful because they are high in oxalates, or oxalate, I think I'm pronouncing that right, which is a chemical compound that you can get too much of, and it can be damaging to your liver. And if you have liver or kidney problems already, it's going to be one that you're going to want to really limit, or really maybe even just avoid altogether. See what we've got here. Oh, look at this. Plantago major, or the common plantain. Really easy to identify. Same thing, rose and a basil rosette. These are everywhere. I mean everywhere. The veins run north and south. That's a good indicator, a good identifying factor. You can see it right here. If the veins spider off in any direction other than north and south, you do not have plantain. You have something else. Right over here we have dandelions. I'm sure I don't have to explain how to identify a dandelion. I'm not sure exactly what variety of dandelion that is. I have so many different varieties of dandelion in my yard. This over here, I believe, is wild lettuce, which is a super medicinal plant. Be careful with it because it can also have its negative side effects, but it's a really, really potent painkiller. Actually, I want to make a correction on this plant here. This is wild lettuce, but I don't believe it's the proper kind for the pain relief. I'm not going to say why, because I don't want to tell you anything that might affect how you identify this plant, but this is wild lettuce, but this is one you're probably going to want to stay away from. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. So here's a great example of wood sorrel growing right next to plantain. It's a big one too. These will produce flowers as well. I think they're yellow. Check this out. Right in my driveway. Those are wild strawberries. And they're everywhere. More wood sorrel. And again, if you research these and decide you're going to eat them, probably want to avoid large quantities because of that oxalic acid. All kinds of more strawberries. Look at them all. They're just everywhere. This is my driveway. Here we have yarrow. More violets. Rose hips. Okay, this is another this variety of wild lettuce. This is they're all in the Lactusa, I believe is how you pronounce it, family. And this is Canada lettuce is the common name for it. You can see the leaves have a little bit of a different shape than the other wild lettuce that I showed you. And there are very few reports of toxicity in this plant. This plant is considered to be less toxic, so take that for what it is. Again, I'm not recommending anybody consume any of these without first consulting a field manual and having 100% identification, doing your research on the plant even once you've identified it, and then consulting with your physician to make sure that it's safe for you to consume. But that's another form of wild lettuce, and wild lettuce is one of those plants where there's a lot of varieties, and they have been considered a food source by a lot of people. Again, here's a close-up of the leaves. This is actually one leaf coming off of the stalk. And if you break that open, it's quite possible that there's a milky substance in there, and that's where the pain relieving qualities lie. But this, again, is not the one species of wild lettuce that I know for sure has been used by not just people as far as like stories and in books, but people that I've spoken to for medicinal use. This is not the one. That's a lady slipper. It's just too beautiful to pass up without recording. Don't eat it. This is poison ivy. Don't eat this either. This is Japanese barberry. I haven't been able to read anywhere that says that it's toxic, but I also haven't been able to find any information that says whether or not it's considered edible. A little information that I've found is that apparently, for whatever reason, Japanese barberry creates a very, very suitable environment for ticks. So I guess maybe it's a good plant to learn. It looks a little bit like rose hips, but not really. I'm not going to get too close in there because I'm not really too interested in visiting the ticks. But it's another pretty easily identifiable plant. So there it is. If you see this, check yourself for ticks. This one right here is one of my all-time favorites. This is Northeastern Teaberry, or commonly referred to as Northeastern wintergreen. It's not actually a wintergreen. And I believe, I'd have to look it up, but I believe this was actually, this is not even a native plant. I believe this was brought over by the colonists, or someone in that time period as a desirable plant. You can make teas out of it. You can dry it. It produces these red berries during the fall that you can eat. That tastes like very wintergreeny as well. And a lot of times, let's see if I can see it. A lot of times, it's a little too early in the year for it, but a lot of times they'll have like a waxy appearance to them, kind of like that green one right there in the back. It's still pretty small. But you'll know for sure, the number one way to identify this plant is really easy. Just take the leaves and break it open and smell it. If it smells like wintergreen, it's teaberry. Alright, well the sun's starting to go down, so I think I'm going to call it good and head back. I appreciate you following me on my journey. Again, I'm not an expert at plant identification by any means. This is just my journey, learning some plants, some edibles, and I'm not encouraging anybody to consume any of these plants. It's all at your own risk, and even if you are 100% positive that you have identified an edible, please make sure that it's safe for you personally. Just because it's safe to consume for most people doesn't mean that that doesn't have compounds and ingredients in there that might be harmful to you personally, given your own personal medical situation. Again, this is just my journey. This is more of the roots of what this channel was, is to help take people along with me on my journey learning. So this isn't an expert video of this is what you should do and this is how to do it. So if I have misidentified anything, which I'm almost positive I have not, but if I have, let me know. If there's any uses for some of these herbs that you personally know about, or these plants that we saw today, let me know. Post it in the comments, share it with everybody else so we can all learn from each other. And until next time, be good.